This is Mary. Welcome to the IHC Craft Room. In today's video, I'm going to show you something that I've never done before. I etched the glass on these two 10-ounce traditional jars, which I'm going to be making candles in another video. But for right now, let me show you how I etched the glass on these. It was so simple. I'm not saying I didn't make any mistakes, because I did, but I learned some stuff and I'm going to share it with you. And also, look how cute these are. Come on, they're so cute. So grab all your stuff and let's get crafty. Okay, hold on to your hats because this materials list is long. Two 10-ounce traditional jars. That's it. Yep, that's all. For tools, we'll need some paper towels, rubbing alcohol, armor etching cream, painter's tape, a heat gun, some paintbrushes or something to apply the cream with, stencils. I picked these up at my local Dollar Tree. And for safety, we need a mask, some safety glasses, and a pair of rubber gloves. Let's get started by using some paper towels and rubbing alcohol to wipe down the surface of these vessels. We're just trying to remove finger oils and any other debris that might be on the surface. This will allow our stencils to adhere to the surface a bit better. Now let's put our stencils down, and the object of the game here is to get these stencils to stick as firmly as possible to the glass surface because we do not want that etching cream to sneak underneath it. So we're really going to firmly push that stencil down using my fingers. I'll eventually move on to using a scraper and pretty much anything you can think of to get into the little nooks and crannies and make sure that they really stick down well to the surface. Painter's tape is your friend, and when protecting your surface so that you don't accidentally get etching cream on areas you shouldn't, well, painter's tape is your BFF, the one you've always dreamed of. I spend a lot of time making sure that the edges of the tape are really well stuck down. This is by far one of the most important steps, so don't rush. Now I'm going to flip this over and add another stencil to the other side and do the same thing. I'm really going to try to just make sure that it adheres really well to the glass surface. A couple of things to make note of here are that I'm resting the jar on my roll of painter's tape. This allows the jar to stay stationary while I'm monkeying around with my stencil. And then the second thing to note is my friend the heat gun, which you'll notice I will be relying on quite a bit during this process to help activate the adhesive on the stencil and encourage it to stay in place and keep that etching cream in line, because that etching cream wants to take over, and I'm not down with that. Use the painter's tape to really cover the full surface of the areas that you don't want to etch. Don't be shy with your BFF painter's tape, okay? Get in there and cover that surface. Make sure it's really, really well stuck down. What's that old saying? Rinse and repeat? Well, that's what we're going to be doing here. I'm going to be doing the exact same thing to this jar that I did to the last one. I'll be laying my stencil down, making sure it's lined up and centered as well as possible. I'll make sure that the stencil adheres to the glass by using my fingers, the scraper, the back of a paintbrush, or literally anything else that can help provide some leverage. And let's not forget the heat gun, which is a really useful tool in helping these stencils stay stuck down. And lastly, I'll cover the remaining surface with painter's tape to protect the glass that I don't want etched and help the stencil stay in place. And once we're done all of that, it'll be time to add the etching cream. Before we do anything else, it is incredibly important to put on safety glasses, a mask, and rubber gloves. This etching cream is no joke. So warning, do not take this lightly. Now, remember a little while ago when I mentioned that I made some mistakes, but I've learned a few things that I'm going to share with you? Well, so far, I've already made one mistake that I haven't discussed with you just yet. But before we go and talk about that, let's discuss the fact that when I opened the jar of etching cream, I gave it the most pathetic stir in the whole wide world. Like if there was an award for the most pathetic stir job, I would have won this trophy hands down. And my punishment for such a lackluster job of stirring the cream is that the etching cream did not perform well when it was applied. I mean, it did etch the glass ultimately, but look at the chaos. It kept pouring off of the sides. It was just not thick enough and was not staying in place. And this was 100% a user error. Hashtag Merry Epic Fail. It's been about 5 minutes, so let's head over to the sink and start rinsing off this cream using some lukewarm water. You'll notice that I'm still wearing my gloves and I'm using a paper towel as a rag to wipe the cream off of the surface. Again, this cream is no joke, so don't mess around. Keep your protective gear on. As soon as I'm done rinsing it off really well, I'll immediately pull off the tape and stencil. So let's see if you spotted the mistake that I made right from the word go. Have you figured it out yet? Let me enjoy the moment of sharing it with you. But before I do that, allow me the opportunity to redeem myself from the pathetic stirring display I put on earlier. I'm using a wooden stick here to stir the etching cream, and this time I'm getting that stick right down to the very bottom of the container, and I'm stirring the entire thing like it owes me money. Like, I'm gonna stir that thing and stir it some more, and when I think I'm done, let me stir it one more time. And in case you were wondering, that is exactly what I should have done right from the beginning. Because even though this etching cream jar doesn't tell you that you need to roll it or shake it or stir it, it literally tells you to do nothing to it. There's no doubt in my mind that whatever is in this cream completely separates and really needs to be thoroughly stirred so that this cream will be thick and do its job properly. Look at how the cream stays perfectly in place now. Okay, let's head back to the sink to rinse off this cream. And while we're here, let's talk about the mistake I made with the painter's tape and stencils right at the very beginning. Now, you look like a smart person. Can you tell me why I thought it was a good idea to stick down both of my stencils right from the beginning? This butterfly stencil did not need to be taped down while I was working on the other side. All I managed to do was completely douse my stencil and painter's tape in water. And if you recall, the most important part of this process is making sure your stencil is really well stuck to the glass. And that the painter's tape is too. So adding water to that equation was just not brilliant on my part, was it? And working with wet tape and a stencil afterwards? Non mi piace. I don't like it. And yet here we are. You can see I'm working on the second jar, and you can also see that I did not take the second stencil off. I still left it in place because I am much more lazy than you could ever imagine. And I was scared. I was scared that taking the stencil off would end up ripping it because I got pretty close to ripping it a few times when I was adjusting its placement. So that just means I'll have to put on my big girl panties and get over myself when I work on the other side of this jar. I may not like wet tape, but I'm gonna have to live with it. Okay, we made it to the last stencil on the last side of the last jar. And as predicted, the painter's tape was a little too wet to adhere well. So I had to add some more on top because when in doubt, just add more painter's tape. After I add the etching cream to this side, I'll let it sit for about 5 minutes and then go ahead and rinse it off, peel off the stencil and tape, and dry up all that water. And there you have it, 2 beautiful etched glass 10-ounce traditional jars using Dollar Tree stencils, and I am so excited to make some candles in these little beauties in my next video. Thank you for joining me on this first-time glass etching experiment, which I think was a huge success. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so that we can continue to get crafty together. Toodaloo!